Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for coming to the last virtual live career fair of 2023. My name is E, and I'm here with my wonderful partner, Vicky, who will be the moderator for the session. Another reminder to people, we will be having a Q&A session at the end, but if you have any questions along we go, please feel free to chat and we'll get to them ASAP. Now, before we start, I would like to acknowledge that the lands on which we work, play, and learn are on the shared traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and other Coast Salish peoples, and their elders past and present. Now I will move the mic to Vicky.
Hi. So Mr. Abelson here was born in South Africa and moved to Canada when he was 8 years old. He later attended Elgin for high school and had an incredible time building a relationship with many teachers. He went to UBC Sauder School of Business and graduated with a BCom, specializing in both operation and logistics and
Entrepreneurship.
entrepreneurship. He worked throughout university in various industries: Purdy's chocolates, engineering, accounting, property management, and even did some things jobs in Israel. He now works in real estate, helping to develop building communities and bringing projects to life. Yeah, so hi, Mr. Abelson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Nice to meet you both.
Yeah. So would you like to first start by giving a little summary about your job and what your day-to-day life looked like?
For sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, I work in real estate development. So for West Group, I guess you can see it on the logo there. And I'm a development coordinator. So pretty much what my role is to help supporting the development managers as well as the directors in bringing all our different projects to life. Some of the projects we have is in the River District. We work in Surrey, we work in Langley, so kind of all over the Lower Mainland. And yeah, a lot of my job is pretty much supporting any tasks that have to be done for the managers, working with cities to get through approval processes, and also working with all our different consultants to kind of get their work done and bring the project to what it can be.
Yeah, and would you say that your day-to-day life is like pretty similar, or are they very different, very flexible? Is your job very flexible in that sense?
I wouldn't say the job's flexible. Every day is different though, depending. I think I'm on 5 different projects. Every project has 25 plus consultants. So every day is different, and depending on the project stages, kind of different things come up. But flexibility wise, it's kind of all in office and working with different teams. So quite present.
Yeah. And how many hours would you work per week or a day, just average?
I get to work at 7:30 and I leave probably around 5:30. So about 50 hours a week. But yeah, it kind of depends as well. If we have mayor's events, then we're kind of going to dinners, or sometimes just meeting consultants for lunch and at their offices. So yeah, it changes all the time.
What do you find most rewarding about your career?
Most rewarding, I think you mentioned it in the introduction that you had there. What a lot of jobs are, you kind of do your work and you never see how it's implemented. But with this job, I mean, I can walk into a building and see people who live there. So really building homes in those communities is very rewarding to see at the end of the day.
Huh. What are some of the biggest challenges and obstacles that you face as in this profession, and how do you overcome them?
I think I'm going to answer that in 2 parts. The biggest challenge I face personally in the day-to-day work is just juggling everything. As I said, there's a lot of different moving parts to a project, and then we're on many different projects that are active. So just switching between and kind of balancing and having your checklist in order is quite important. Industry-wide, I think dealing with municipal and government issues. And I say issues, it's more collaboration, but getting things past council and getting different approvals is always challenging, but also makes it very exciting. So
Yeah. Has this always been a career that you wanted to go into maybe in high school, or is there something else that you kind of wanted to do but then switched along the way?
Uh, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the economic times we live in right now are a bit interesting. So I was originally, my path was kind of set out to go into consulting, but then there was a hiring freeze. Always been interested in real estate and the real estate investment world, but never had imagined being at this company or in development. So very happy to be here now.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit more about operations and logistics and entrepreneurship? Like what led you to these taking these courses and specializing in
For
these?
sure. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I double specialize in both of those. I think the entrepreneurship part is very much just how my brain works. I'm quite process orientated and like to look at a problem and see kind of what are the individual steps and how can we optimize different things to get to our outcome quicker. So that's why I was interested in operations and logistics. And then the entrepreneurship side, I think, again, I'm just quite interested in new ways of looking at things, the way companies are tackling new challenges. So that entrepreneurial side where you're not confined to a box was just fascinating to study. And then, yeah, they're both very transferable skills to any industry that I may be working in. So that was also an important thing to consider.
Yeah, so for development and for your current role being development coordinator, are there any misconceptions or stereotypes for this profession that you think is good to address, maybe to students wanting to pursue it?
For sure. I think in the past, developers have been seen as a big bad wolf, and are seen as just money hungry and not really thinking about the people on the other side of it. I think something to really consider is at the end of the day, all the houses that we live in and the communities we have around us were actually built by developers. And while certainly there are some companies in the world that don't have their ethics in the right place, we here are very focused on that end user and how are we carrying out every task with that thought in mind. Obviously, there does have to be financial considerations taken into account, but there's many other important milestones and key performance metrics that we tackle. So yeah, I think shifting that mindset from developers are bad to developers can actually be people we can work with and build the future of our cities.
Can you tell me maybe a little more about your journey to this company and your current position?
For sure. As I mentioned, I graduated university in December this past year, and came out of it, and yeah, the economy was not great for being hired. So was very much just putting feelers out there, was open to exploring any opportunities. Eventually was speaking to West Group and went out for coffee with one of the directors here. And I think that's one of my key things that I want people to kind of take out of this is every single meeting and every interaction you have with someone is an opportunity to build a relationship. And so you never know where that will go. So I was just very much speaking to this person to get an understanding of what their work was. And then that landed up with me actually getting interviews and eventually being in the position. So yeah, it was not the planned path, but just trusted the process.
Yeah.
Okay, so we actually just got a question in the chat. We have a marketing and entrepreneurship class watching. So do you have any advice for students looking to move into these fields?
Yeah, I mean, those are hand in hand, but also quite different. Marketing, I think it's very interesting for people who are looking to go into the marketing field. It's important to consider that every single company in the world and everything you look at is most likely there because there was a marketing person on the other side of that. So yeah, just opening your eyes and getting exposed to that is brilliant because not every type of marketing is the same. Entrepreneurship, I think it's one thing to be taught in school, but I think it's also quite inherent. Some people kind of are more entrepreneurial and others are more by the book. Neither one's right, neither one's wrong. But yeah, sometimes pushing yourself out of the box and to just think differently is always what's interesting. So.
Now looking at your bio, I see that you've had a lot of previous kind of job experiences working in Purdy's or even in Israel. Would you like to expand a little more on that, talking about maybe your experiences? Are the internships co-ops?
Yeah, I think something that many people will be told is you will not work in your industry after your first year of university. And that's something I was told as well. And that is something I wanted to challenge and not accept. So one of the big tools, I think I'm sure many of you know of it, LinkedIn is a huge tool and continues to be growing. So going back to my point previously, it all comes down to relationships. So when I got my first job in my first year working at Purdy's at their headquarters, that was just through sending a message on LinkedIn to their senior vice president. While I was in Israel last year, I was working at Deloitte, which is, many may know as well, a massive consulting firm. I think what I learned there, and something to also consider for many people, is brand names and company names do jump out on a resume, but they also sometimes offer less opportunity to grow personally, because there's just less hands-on experience with your managers and kind of less opportunity to explore something new. So still a great experience, but that was just an area where I learned that if you're going to go into a massive firm, just be aware that your future's kind of decided for you and there's less leeway. So yeah, I think I worked, as you said, I also worked in engineering accounting, which was, I think some people think like that, and that was quite a boring area for me just because it was a lot of the same work every day. And it's not exactly a very fast moving industry. So, but again, a great experience to learn what you don't like as much as learning what you do like.
Yeah, do you think maybe working in those your previous job, have they taught you anything, like helped you find where you are going now, kind of find your current job, your current career passion?
Yeah, I mean, I think any new job kind of shapes you to what way you are at. Obviously, the resume gets you into the door, but I think no matter what's on your resume, once you're in the door, it comes down to you and building that relationship with the person you're interviewing with. I think I mentioned kind of experiences working for big companies, small companies. Yeah, not too much more to say on that one.
And we have students here, I'm sure, that's interested in going into business, especially solder. So would you have any advice that you'd like to give to them?
Yes. So I think one of my biggest learnings was actually going into Sorda and accepting the application there. All of you have, I'm sure, met Miss Jansen, and she played a pivotal role in me making that decision. I was accepted to other universities and kind of doubted if I was ready for Sorda and the competition that goes on at that school. But as Ms. Jansen had mentioned, if you've been accepted or if others see potential in you, there's probably a reason for that. So you have the opportunity to either step up to the plate and tackle that challenge or step away from it. UBC is obviously an incredible university academically. It was an amazing time socially. I think some of the best years of my life were spent there. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what university you go to or what you're studying at the university, it's what you make of it. So you can either make every moment count or you can complain about everything. So yeah, obviously it does matter at the end of the day, but also it's not going to make or break the rest of your life.
And for your current career, was this education was the education that you took, the courses, kind of your specialization required, or was there other form of education that you think would also get them in the same field?
Yes, I mean, some people, I think, with real estate development, a lot of people have come from a kind of real estate background, having studied real estate or studied city planning and all of that. I did neither of those, but I think the skills you learn in kind of any university environment or any past job can be applied to it. So it is quite a broad spectrum of people who work in real estate development. Also, just speaking about our company as well, real estate is obviously a massive umbrella. So just because I'm in development, we also have an acquisitions team. So if you're more into finance, there's that. If you're interested in people management, there's kind of the whole property management side as well. So every company has a few different divisions depending on how they function. So yeah, you can shape your career.
And do you mind maybe expanding a little more on your graduate with of your like specializations, the operations and logistics, and maybe expanding a bit more on your entrepreneurship as well?
Yeah, so the operations and logistics, what a lot of that stuff was process management and understanding what are bottlenecks. So if you think about cars driving up to a bridge, they all slow down because there's the one less lane closure. So it's figuring out how can we overcome those bottlenecks to be more streamlined. And the entrepreneurship one was more just learning how to think differently. And we did a lot of case studies of companies who have grown from zero to hero, and also companies that failed and where they went wrong. So yeah, more real life examples there. I see there's quite a few questions coming through.
Let's get to them one at a time. So were you a confident high school student, or did that confidence grow through your post-secondary experience? Is a big part of your job selling yourself as well as selling what your company offers?
Yes. The first one, I think I was self-confident, but certainly needed some people around me to support in what I was doing. I grew up and had a bit of a challenge with my reading, so there was always kind of that doubt on my shoulder of can I actually do this? But then starting to realize that when those grades were coming back, that was actually me achieving what I was putting my head to. So confidence definitely was there, but certainly grew through university. Is selling myself a big part of the job? Yes. I think the way you interact with your consultants and the way you interact with political organizations is very much building that one-on-one relationship, and then the business comes second. So if you can build a trust and build almost a friendship with them, it opens up the conversation to have those challenging meetings. So yeah, certainly selling yourself is important, and then selling the vision for a company is, I think, always important.
Yeah, cool. So is West Group a Canadian company or is it in South Africa?
West Group is a Canadian company. It was founded by Peter Wessick, and he lives here in Kitsilano, and yeah, just on the West Coast right now, and potential expansion in the future.
Cool. And circling back to your experience in Souder, what suggestions would you give to our students looking to apply? Are academics as important as extracurricular activities?
I think many of you have probably had the people come in to speak to you about universities. I think yes, there's a threshold of your grades matter, but past that, I think it's very much they're hiring, or not hiring, they're accepting the people behind those grades. So of course you do have to have certain kind of numbers that you have to meet, but beyond that, it's very much, again, selling yourself and what have you achieved and what do you bring to them. They want diversity, they want to see not just academic achievement. So I think it's a balance between both.
Okay. And what do you believe attributed to your success in being accepted to Souder, as you mentioned, and you had other offers too?
Yeah, I mean, I say other offers. It was one other offer to you, Vic. And I mean, my grades were good. As mentioned, I had challenges with school earlier on, but I think I got into a rhythm, and as my confidence built, I my grades continued to build as well. But attributed to my success into SORTA, I think, was my personal profile. I was quite involved at Elgin. I did a lot of sports. I kind of spoke about my learning opportunities that I'd had moving to Canada, for example. So really not bragging about yourself, but yeah, you have faced challenges, and how did you get through those versus allowing them to knock you down was, I think, what attributed to being accepted.
Okay, so we looked at your bio and we saw that you did go to co-op. Would you say that also helped, whether it's in the application to university and just your personal life experience?
When you say co-op, do you mean at Elgin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't do the exact Elgin co-op like program that you guys have there. I was working while at high school. Again, I think it did add to the acceptance to SORTA, just because they were seeing that I was striving for more and not just doing the bare minimum of going to school and coming home. So yeah, I think that did play a bit of a part.
Okay, thank you. And what was your transition from high school to post-secondary, like in terms of adjusting to rigor, living on your own, etc.?
Yeah, it is an adjustment. I will not deny that. I think it's, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's the way you look at it. You can either let it beat you down, or you can see it as an opportunity. Exams are definitely different, just because the expectation, like for example, you don't get 100% while you're at university for various reasons. Number one, it's harder, but also they bell curve stuff, so they will shift your grades to accommodate an average. But I think the bigger thing than writing the exams, because at the end of the day, it's similar to high school. You study for them, you write them, and you get a grade. But just the kind of constant deliverables that are going on at university. In high school, teachers generally know like what's going on between certain departments and all of that, so they may slow down, whereas at university, every professor has their own deliverable. So while you may be finishing first round of midterms for one class, you may be in your third class of midterms for a different one while at university. So you're kind of always being tested, which is just something you have to learn to deal with. And
Okay.
yeah, sorry, on that part as well, living on your own. I think that was an amazing opportunity, and I highly encourage people to live on campus and really immerse themselves in the university culture. Certainly not easy. Again, it is a transition. But that's, I think, when you're in those uncomfortable situations, that's when you really grow. If it's just the same thing and you're not feeling like you're out of your comfort zone, then you're probably not doing much personal development. So that's an important thing to have in your life.
Yeah. So, I think getting back a bit onto your current career of being a development coordinator, was there any additional training that you did outside of university, and how long did maybe some of those trainings take?
Yeah, I haven't. I came straight into this role straight out of university. I'm going to say that's not very common. I think that is largely due to my kind of past experience of working quite a bit while at university. A lot of people will start out either in different roles or come from smaller companies and then move up over their years. But while I've been here, I have been doing quite a few different classes and courses to just continue learning while I'm here. Many of you know buildings are built out of concrete, which is not good for the environment. So we're starting to look at how to build tall buildings out of wood. So I've done some courses through BCRT to learn mass timber construction. I go to different classes that are put on by just the general developer kind of union that has different information there. So always looking to learn, but no, I didn't do something required.
Do you see any room for growth in your career at the moment where you can, your positions or personal growth?
Yes. I think, as always, growth in a career takes time, so that's something to learn. I think we live in a generation, both you and I, who wants things instantly. And so that's important to learn, that if you want to build trust and build your career, it's going to take some time. But in saying that, every day you're learning and you're growing, and you can build your knowledge base. So I'd say I'm growing every day. I hope my managers and vice presidents say that as well. But yeah, it's a constant growth process.
Okay, so just you mentioned before that building buildings out of concrete isn't very environmentally friendly. So now with the growing like technology and people's concerns are changing, how do you expect your job to change in the future?
Yeah, I mean, right now, development is a very tough industry to be in. Costs of living are going up, and costs of construction are going up as well. So that's both all our consultants' fees as well as materials. So there's certainly a look to how can we diversify, how can we, as you said, use technology to build more efficiency, reduce any kind of leftover costs. So yeah, using a lot of different technologies. A lot of our consultants do it. For example, our architects and all our different engineers use models. So instead of having to build the building, they actually build it in a computer first and see how does it all fit together. And so that reduces those questions when the building actually gets built. And yeah, I think there's obviously an important one thing I would say, and I regret, this is a completely different question, but I'm just running with it. Something that I regret not doing at university was taking more computer software classes. I think that's a huge asset in any industry, and that's obviously the way the world's going with the use of artificial intelligence. So I'm not saying study computer science and become an expert, but having some knowledge under your belt will certainly be beneficial in any industry.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking, what are the average salary for this career, and what is like the starting salary?
Yeah, so salaries in this career depend very much on the company. As I said, there's some big companies like us, we're quite a big one, and then there's smaller shops that are 4 people. So it can be anything from 60,000, probably ranging to, I'd say, 90. So a wide range, but certainly a career path where there's a lot of growth as you go through the years, just because you can't pick it up overnight. So you do become more valuable over time.
And do you think there are any skills needed for this career, more like personal skills? Are there any, like, what are some qualities of individuals who are successful in this field?
Yes, I'm going to give you 3 skills. Number one is people management and interpersonal skills. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different consultants. There's a lot of people that you're dealing with. So building that trust so that people will listen to you and deliver when you're asking for certain things. So that's one. Number two is organizational skills. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving people and a lot of moving projects. So just keeping track of everything and where things are at is important. And I'd say number three is just understanding kind of policy and what's going on in government as well as what's going on in the economic world is important. Because at the end of the day, that's the world we're living in. So knowing what products you're bringing to market is very important strategically.
And one last thing before we move on to the Q&A section, is there anything else that you would like to tell us?
Anything else I'd like to tell you? My biggest philosophy throughout my life and throughout working here and university was that everything happens for a reason. I know in grade 10 and going out of high school, every decision seems like a life-changing one, but also just trust that things do happen for a reason. Not getting into certain places happen for a reason, and that just means that decision has been made for you and you can run with the next one. So don't waste your time fighting things, rather take them as opportunities and move forward.
With that being said, we can now move on to the Q&A section. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in chat, and Mr. Abelson can help answer them.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for the questions to pop up, could you tell us something that's maybe like the most interesting thing that happened in your workplace?
Most interesting. Most interesting. I mean, there's stuff going on all the time. It's very project specific. So I'd say one day you're working on a project and you're about to build a 60-story tower, and then the government changes the rule and now it's going to cost you $25 million to do it. And so you're not building that anymore. So things change all the time. So it keeps that just keeps it interesting. But I don't know if that's fascinating to you.
Yeah, that's cool. We have questions in the chat. What was it like to live abroad, and how did that help you grow?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I spent 4 months in Israel over the summer last year working. And then I went to the Netherlands and I studied on exchange there for 5 months. Helping me grow, I think that was the first time that I really learned to be comfortable within myself. When you move to a new country and you're going there as an adult, let's call it, even though I was a student, you don't have all your friends around you, you don't have family, so you're not constantly stimulated. So learning to actually be by yourself, go explore something by yourself, sit with the journal, and kind of reflect is important. Not an easy feeling, not a nice feeling, because you do feel quite alone in the world. But eventually you learn to become friends with yourself and you can keep yourself company. So that was my biggest learning.
Yeah. And I'm not seeing any more questions in chat, and time is a little tight. I think we
We're
can
going
start
to
to wrap
wrap
up.
up.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
oh,
Two more. I'm easy for time, so if you guys want to keep going, we can. Up to you.
we only have like 4 minutes
Yeah.
left. So if you would like to maybe just
Briefly touch on both of them.
and then we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, Dawson, mental health challenges at university. I did a lot of exercise. I think that's where I clear my head, and it's obviously important physically as well. So that's how I dealt with my mental health. What was your internship at UBC in your third year? What was it related to? Third year, I worked in property management for First Service Residential. And that's kind of like companies own buildings. And so you hire people who manage the building. So the concierge, the maintenance work and all of that. And so I did all their process management there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I
Thank you.
thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah.
We had a great time with you. I'm sure that everyone watching have learned a lot. We have, I think, that our entrepreneurship class
Yeah.
and business class watching. I'm not sure, but I'm sure that they've learned a lot. Thank you so much for being here with us once again. We appreciate your time. And
sure.
thank you so much everyone else for joining our week of career fair. This is our last interview, and I hope everyone watching had a good time this week. Yeah, thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for having me. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, Sue can give you my contact information. So have a good one, everyone, and good luck on everything.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good rest of your
Bye.
day.
You as
Bye.
well. Bye.